It's 9 o'clock, so we'll commence with invocation by Henry, followed by the flag salute.
Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Lord, we thank you for the blessings you bestow upon us. We invite you, Lord Jesus, to come and be the light and the truth that you are, and lead us today. Lord, again, thank you so much for what you do for us. And thank you so much for what you did so many years ago on the cross. Lord, again, I ask for your guidance for our elected leaders today. Give them guidance and wisdom in the decisions that they have to make. Lord, welcome Jesus, welcome Satan, go away. I offer this prayer in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start out with administrative business. Ashley?
First off, I have some supplements for you guys to review.
Just for review. Yeah.
And next I have some salary sheets.
Okay, first one is Lisa Reeder, appraiser, 2-year raise. 2-year raise is county appraiser from 4,928 to 5,011.
Is this by the contract?
Yes.
Next one, Anthony Wyatt, ambulance department, 6-month raise at EMT from $12 to $12.25. Noah Richter, ambulance, 1-year raise as a EMT from $12.25 to $12.50. payroll, C.J. Perry, Sheriff's Department, new deputy sheriff, 6-month and 1-year raise, starting pay of $17.02. Aaron Christner, Sheriff's Department, 6-month raise, deputy, $17.02 to $17.36. And Megan Cheesick, jail, part-time reserve officer, starting pay $12 an hour.
Okay. The last payroll, there was some hours not entered for an employee in the sheriff's department, and they asked us Friday to pay those few hours. So we did that, and it was due to hardship, so we had a special payroll.
Okay, special payroll to be approved in the amount of $529.30. That is, you said that is for the sheriff's
Yep.
department. You know, whether those just turned in late or.
They had missed entering those hours. Paperwork for you to sign. It's the Federal Aid Fund Exchange Master Agreement, so that you guys can receive money.
Okay, this is a request to exchange federal funds under the Federal Aid Fund Exchange Master Agreement for Marion County. Federal funds to be exchanged, $140,793.82, and that is for road and bridge.
Yes.
Today is the 12th.
Yes.
Just the one. I think we had that in our packet, but anybody need to see that?
I do have the minutes from August 5th. Be approved.
Okay. If you had a chance to review those minutes. Any additions or corrections? And I'll I'll move we approve the August 5th minutes as written.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Kent, you wanted to discuss this email that you guys received.
We can.
Or do you want to do that?
The author of that's not present. I don't know if we
Do
want
you
to
want to
wait.
wait?
We might wait.
Are they expected to come?
How you doing?
She's usually late.
Neither one of the press persons are here yet.
Tina had put in a memo for you guys regarding the sales tax process. Did you guys read that?
Yes. Letter was from Dave Arterburn.
Yes.
A little bit of issue and some wording
Yeah. And/or.
and/or. I guess, it's gonna be up to the wishes of the commission of how to proceed or not proceed with that.
Yeah.
It appears we have several options. Get to it quick here. You've read the options there. Commissioner Dolphin, Commissioner Newhall voted in favor of going ahead with an election on that. I guess I'll listen to your options, what you might be considering or thinking at this point.
It just, when I got this, when we was testifying in front of there was nothing, we specifically testified that we didn't know exactly what it may be used for in the future in the three options there, but we never at no time testified that it would be all three in a package deal. And that's the way it sounds to me, if I'm correct, that we would have to have a package deal, or if we put it together for that, or to go back and see if they would revise it is another option, which would probably delay this election till spring of 2020. And I really think that somewhere in between there, but time we testified, whether it was written a little different than what we testified to. Most of the legislatures that asked us any questions at all was, one, what our mill levy was, and then number two was, how come we didn't ask for more? And that was the two questions that we was asked. But we felt that the 0.5% was plenty, but then when it come up to Dave and mentioned this small percentage, well, I thought that was an easier way to go with a small percentage. So.
Just as for information to the public, what it addresses here, and I'll read it just as stated from our bond attorney, Dave Atterbury. Item number one, when the legislation was passed, it gave the county the authority to ask for a 1/2 cent sales tax. It does not authorize asking for a lesser amount. And number two, the language used authorizes a tax to be sought for property tax relief, economic development, and public infrastructure, including buildings. Because the word "and" was used instead of the word "or," the county must include all three of these initiatives to call for an election under the current legislation.
And the way it's all passed after we just went before the committee to ask for it. So we didn't see any of this until after it was passed. So that's the ifs and ands of, ors and ands of government, I guess, that we cannot go to the sales tax unless we put a package together. Diane, did you read anything else in this that you?
No, I read it just like what you read, and I see the same thing.
So I guess the question is, how do you want to proceed?
I'm gonna stick by it. I say we should just pay for it. I mean, we were told originally when we first started this project, well, when we first started, we were up in the what, $4 or $5 million range. When we were gonna buy property down south and property other places. And so as we continued to research and pursue, I remember specifically Tina was here and said as long as we stay around 2 million or under, that we should be able to take it out of our reserves. And so, or we should be able to pay for it. And so I, based on that, pursued and thought that it was a good thing to do, and so I'm gonna stick by it. I think we should just pay for it. I did some calculating, and the amount of interest that we'll pay, I think we just can't afford to waste that kind of money. I just don't. I think we should borrow it from ourselves and pay ourselves back. And you'd be surprised how fast you can pay yourself back. That's my thought. And I also did ask the banks, a couple of the banks, about any type of negative thought that they might have as far as loaning us in the event that we would have taken it to the sales tax. And I didn't hear any negative repercussion on that at all. But I'm gonna stick to my guns that we should just pay for it. I don't think we should burden the taxpayers on it.
Well, we'll have to do something, or we're gonna have to put this project on hold until either the Attorney General acts on it, or this is revised, or the original motion is rescinded. Randy, where are you at?
Well, the only thing with using our reserves is, and I guess I've just sat here too long, that we've saved up for our roads, and roads is something that we have more people come in here and are upset about on our blacktop roads, and I have a hard time spending our reserves to take away from our roads and not be able to do road projects than to take some of our reserves away. That's my only problem with that.
Are we taking it away from roads? I don't think we're taking it away from roads. We're taking it out.
Well, we've
We've already got roads budgeted for mega money, more so than what they had before.
we took 7 mills away from them. That was supposed to go in the roads and put it in our general fund, just to take cover cash reserves.
Yeah, our intent in the budget was to maintain a 5 to 6 month cash reserve in the general fund, which was highly recommended by our accountant. And I just think it's prudent to maintain an adequate general fund reserve.
I've heard some people talk since this come about last weekend. I've only talked to 2 or 3 different people, but a couple of them suggested we'll just fix the floor and go on.
And that's a possibility.
I mean, fix the floor and go on and not build a building. So that's a possibility too. And I think.
The only adverse effect of that is
Shut down.
if we spend $400,000 or so to fix the floor, and then in 2 or 3 years, the rest of it needs to be rebuilt, is that a wise use of, other than we know that the floor has to be fixed?
Yeah.
I mean, if we can sit here and say, oh, that's gonna take care of everything for the next 10 years, maybe that is a prudent thing to do. You know, we've heard from constituents that, hey, it's just trash. But trash is a big deal.
Everybody's got it.
So we either gonna have to wait until we can get the wording corrected, which puts it out to somewhere in 2020, and hope that the floor lasts for another year.
I think the floor was the big urgency.
Right.
The safety factor.
Right. That's what started the whole
That's right.
talk, is the vibrating floor.
Can you take half of that, like Diane was saying, to take the whole thing out of reserves, or just do half of it? And then look at the rest of it some other way, you know what I mean?
Well, the way we're doing it anyway is in phases.
Sure.
So even as we do it in phases, we won't be taking a whole big lump sum out, we'll be paying as we go.
Yeah.
And we can go as slow or as fast on each phase as we want, I assume.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's why I don't see
yeah, that would be
the
smart.
big deal on that.
The whole caveat to that, though, is gonna be if we get FEMA funding for emergency road repairs. If we don't see any of those in the next 1.5 to 2 years, and we get short again on gravel budget, that sort of thing, our only outlet is the general fund.
Well, then you could kind of maybe add another phase to it, you know what I mean, like do.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, and there are phases. I mean, there's demolition phase, there's phase 1, there's phase 2. So, I mean, that would have to be reworked, and that may be what we're looking at, I don't know.
If you look at fixing the floor, you're looking at, let's just say 500,000.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would cost, but I'm just saying that. I've heard less, but I'm putting it high. And sort of to me, if I spend 500,000 and I get this for 10, 15 years, then I'm looking at the floor again. I don't know whether we'd ever look at the floor again, whether fix it for 30 years or whether fix it for a lot, longer, I don't, or less, I don't know. That's, and so if I spend 500,000 and I'm looking at 1.5, if we come in at 1.5, but we've been told 2, we're spending 1/4 of the new price to put a new one in.
third.
Well, 1.5, but if it goes to 2, we've heard 2.
Yeah.
And we've heard 1.5 to start with, and it's got to 2 here within the last few times. So either a third or the fourth, whichever way you look at it, of new cost to do that.
And I know at one time we did have a quote on that, and that's been, what, about 3 years?
2
2 years.
A couple, at least 2 years ago.
And that was off the top of my head. I'm thinking it was closer to 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 something.
So we know
Because
it's.
of cost overruns or what?
The what?
Why did it go up to 2 to 3? Because of cost overruns or what?
No, I think we've had different engineers from when we've had at least 3 different since we started.
Right.
The original one was here, and then he quit, and then another one quit after that. We're to I think the owner of the company that's presenting to us now. So.
And I did make a phone call to the engineer about some of the cost, because I have my own theory as to why we overran, but I was wrong. And his thing is because it's a booming economy out there. You don't have a lot of construction people starving and wanting to do it for nothing. And the price of the materials have soared
Right.
because of the
Concrete
economy.
has
So
gone
it's
up.
something that really, in this case, was out of our hands
Right.
at the pace that the economy took off.
It's really not a very competitive environment as it was several years ago.
Several years ago, it still went up 15% on the year.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure you
if
could
the
probably,
booming economy
you could
goes
probably,
up.
if you're talking about that, you could probably add 30% at least
Yes.
on to what our original quote was.
Yeah.
We're not really that far over, what are we, 30,000 or 40,000 over. I mean, and on the first phase, it's not a tragedy that it's not, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like 100 grand over or something at this point yet.
So can you do the floor, like you were saying, that could cost $400,000 to $500,000 as a first phase, and then also in the back end of it, be rewriting it to where it states what you guys needed to actually state to do the tax?
Yeah. I think the first phase, though, was demolition.
And is the county doing the demolition or utilizing our people or not?
No. We're too tight on people to do that.
Well, expertise.
Well,
probably.
yeah, plus there's a lot of expertise in demo.
Don't have the right equipment.
Yeah.
What about your lease purchase that you wanted to do? I mean,
Well, that's-
Interest rate's gone down now since last week.
That's where I'm still at, is on the lease purchase. So I'm gonna leave it up to the other two commissioners to decide what they wanna do. I'm not gonna stand in the way of we looking at this as a different project and doing the fix that we need.
The
If we do that, we will pay for it.
The paying back, Diane, what did you figure?
Well, but at a 4% interest rate, if we would have went for a 15-year on a 2 million or $1 million, it was at two different ones. One was like $270,000 in the interest, and then one was something like $180,000 if we would have went for the 10-year or 15-year. I can't remember what it was exactly. But I had the $1.5 million and the $2 million,
Right.
and I also had the 10-year and the 15-year.
Right.
Figure, and so that's the amount.
That's paying ourselves back, like what you wanna do?
No, that's paying, if we would have done the option of taking out a loan,
Okay.
borrowing the money.
Paying ourselves back, how fast could you do that?
Well,
What
we
phases?
could do that, we could calculate that, we didn't even calculate that up, but I would certainly say it would be equal to what you would pay the bank back. And then if you got into a bad crunch and you couldn't make it that month or something, we had that type of flexibility as well, which you want to be disciplined and not have that happen, but when situations happen, you have that flexibility, where with the bank you don't. And we have a lot of loans out now, and I know on Road and Bridge, and some of them, they're like, "Phew, I only got one more year to make this big payment on this piece of equipment," because they're money strapped already because of payments,
Right.
so.
If you take out so many payments, you're gonna get strapped, you get coming and going and everything.
There's also another caveat to that too. It's called loss of use of your cash flow. When you don't have the cash flow to go out there and make purchases when they're offered to us at favorable rates, and you have to pay the going rate for things, okay, you're basically paying a bunch of interest then too. So the loss of use when it comes to cash flow,
Loss of use to equipment like,
loss of use of those funds.
for equipment like what, dump trucks, road graders, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and it would be no different than a farmer. If you don't have the cash at hand, where do? You go to the bank, you get a line of credit.
If I don't have the cash at hand, I don't buy it.
Well, I'm just talking about a majority of the operations. County does not have that option. We can't go to the bank and get a line of credit to fall back on. That's why our cash reserves are so critical.
And 2 years ago, when Kent come in as a candidate or as a commissioner, and Diane was here already, but we had been saving for roads.
Right.
And 330th project come up, we paid cash. I mean,
Mhm.
just right, because we had cash.
Right.
And got the job done and over with. And that's, because we already had a 10-year payout deal on the Tampa road of 4 miles, is it 3 miles or 4 miles?
4.
4 miles from Tampa, K-15 into Tampa.
Right.
And we're gonna finish that up, I think, next year, I believe, if I remember right.
Yeah.
That'll be a
Okay.
10-year deal
Yeah.
payment on that. That's we're finishing up. But my point being is that we had the cash set back for the roads, and we used it for the roads, and that's been a pretty big deal since I've been here, and Scott Lloyd has been a big person to drive to that way to where if you save the money and have some money, it's a lot easier than go and borrow the money. So,
And, you know, one of our projects that we've already looked at is a $7.5 million.
yeah, there's one sitting out there that's way too high rated, but it can be done cheaper, I think.
Yeah. But, you know, we have to set aside money to at least start those projects.
So we don't know. We don't know how long the floor is going to last. Could be tomorrow. Could be 10 years from now. I don't think it's going to make it 10 years.
Well, none of us are
Yeah.
engineers, so we can't. But I guess that would be a question of the engineer when he comes back, which he's supposed to be back next week or two, isn't he?
Oh, you're talking
Oh,
about
the
Call Valley?
Call Valley. Yeah, they was wanting to come up. Yes. Yeah.
That would be a question that maybe we should wait on and submit to him.
Yeah. Something to take a serious look at this and see if, you know, what is the deadline in that? Is that April or May that the legislation would make that decision, whether they would place and or on here? I mean, or change it to or, if, you know, if we present them that we was looking for a project to,
That sounds right, if the election would be late spring or early summer.
yeah.
You'd be looking at next summer before you'd have an election. So then you'd have a special election, which would cost us another $15,000, or whatever that is. I guess I'm in favor of waiting a week or two until we can discuss this with the engineer.
See what they might have to say.
And
Should we,
because, I mean,
should we send a letter of just acknowledgement to him and let him know of our problem here, what fundings we're looking at, whether we, and.
to Call Valley.
Yeah, to Call Valley and see what, or just ask a simple question, what's the lifetime of our, maybe expected? the way
Could
it's
we
going?
direct an email to Call Valley? Tell him and kind of give him the information that we're faced with, and maybe to give us some ideas, maybe some thoughts, and maybe some general prices on fixing the floor, and you know what the additional might be to, if there's going to be any additional that we're going to have to do. You know, you go and tear out a floor. I'm afraid in that old building they're going to say, gee, we need to fix this now since we're in here.
Once you start, you can't quit.
Well, that's true. You're in a 100 and some year old building, and if there's a structural issue with a wall or something, which we already had on the north side.
Is it cheaper to pay interest or to pay inflation too? I mean, next year's gonna go up 10%, the year after it's gonna go up 10%.
If the economy,
Interest is only
if the
4%.
economy stays good and contractors are busy, we're not gonna be in a competitive environment for, we don't know how
Yeah,
long.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
Only takes one newspaper article to ruin it.
And then they come up with 138,000. Was that a 10-year deal or was that a
That was a 15.
15-year lease? Yeah,
Mhm.
15-year lease purchase.
And you know, that's another point. I mean, we expect our transfer station to be self-sufficient. You know, if they can be self-sufficient and cash flow the payment, you know, we can get away from talking about having to raise taxes in order to pay that.
And I know we all say it's the right thing, but I still say our recycling is, we had the payment of around 112,000, I think, or 120,000, what we was making before for 10 years, and now this jumps up to 138. We have raised our, and I don't know exactly what our fee will recover since, has it been a full year? So we haven't been a full year since we've done that, so.
Since we raised the.
Since we raised it.
No, that's only been
It's first of the year.
since I've been on.
Okay, it wasn't first of the year.
A couple months back.
Yeah. So, we don't know what that's gonna fund, but if, in my opinion, if what we raise will fund that 138,000 and not have to hit the taxpayers or use our reserves, I would be in favor of that one, probably, if it'll do it that, if we can figure out if it'll do it that way. I mean, we went $100 just on residential.
Residential.
We didn't touch the commercial inside of it. If that will cover our 138,000 at that 15 years, why? I mean, even, what if you have to pay another 20,000 a year on top of that for a $2 million deal? Because that's at 1.5 million.
That's at 1.5.
Yeah. But I would, if we could put those components together, that would be the way to look at it. But how much would we save by shutting down recycling? I don't know. I mean,
Should look at that.
Recycling is a drag, has been.
I mean, I know it's the right thing to do, and I'm gonna do it, but if it's costing us, it's,
I don't do it, so,
yeah, well,
I mean, if it's trash that goes in the bag, I don't care what it is.
yeah.
Yeah, but you look month after month after month, we lose money on recycling. We can't pay our fuel for dragging the bins around.
Right, that's a big expense, plus a truck. and a trailer.
Plus, you know, you always got an employee out too that could be
Yes.
out doing spraying weeds or something.
Yep.
So,
I would like to do that in a couple of weeks, give us some time to think on this and see exactly, maybe put some more pencils to it and see. I would be willing to do that, and see what they say about the length of the floor and time of the floor.
Do you have enough information to send Call Valley a email? Maybe give us some ballpark figures about a fix, or, you know, of course, otherwise we're either gonna pay for it or go to lease purchase. Okay. All right.
That's all I have besides the email that you wanted to discuss.
Okay. You want to talk about the email that was sent by Patty?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see that on there.
Let's take
You remember?
that.
Well, I have a cold now, so.
Okay, she had sent us several questions. Question number one was, she addressed a couple months ago and wrote about a column about the overspending in the revenues coming in by 2 million based on the fourth quarter publication. That's the fourth quarter of 18, correct? Yeah, fourth quarter 18.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I get those budget years confused.
I think, actually, Tina was gonna address that, but Tina's not present this morning, so I don't know if you had the information that she had. Okay. But anyway, the main question was, how did citizens benefit from spending down in the reserves? Well, you know, if we were short on budget in a given department, the general fund is where we have to go to. And of course, that's where it would have come from if the budget was overspent. Of course, the commission knows if a budget is going to be overspent because the department comes in and says, hey, we didn't think we're going to have to spend this year, or we have an opportunity to buy something at a discount. So, you know, those kind of instances are probably going to arise, and I suppose over the years, Randy, you've seen that happen.
It does, I mean, it's, well, one of them, this building right here, the windows was 700,000. We was saving up money to build a building over there. We took that money and spent in that. Tuck pointing, that's way over $1 million to tuck point this building. And that's been two estimates. They give us an estimate high above the square and then one below the square for tuck pointing when we did that. So those kind of, and we haven't done all of that. So those kind of things come in at $1 million, $500,000. Why? Where's your money? I mean, there's things that happen, and
I wasn't a part of that, but
no.
when it came to tuck pointing, was that some engineer came in and said,
Yes.
hey, you
Yes.
need to get this done expeditiously?
Well, not just. He said it's not getting better. It's not going to get any better unless we do something at some time, and we have not got back to it yet. So.
So
That's
I
just a
guess I'm
small-
still a little confused because you're talking about a large sum of money that was drawn down over the course, and I don't see, I just, the answer to the question, I guess I still don't.
Well, in fairness to the commission too, I mean, I base that on the fourth quarter publication, but
Mhm.
it could be possible with the audit. I don't know that, I'm not sure what, if it was 2 million that was spent to help other departments, or if there's some other explanation.
But if it was 2 million, that would come to our attention, I would have thought, and I didn't see.
Yeah, I know Tina was gonna address that
Okay.
because she had figures on that. And
Good.
we can retouch that next week.
Okay.
Okay, your next question. In the 2019 budget, the mill levy was lowered because of a valuation increase, correct? But I believe there's clearly more room to lower mills based on valuation increases. In my opinion, what I find difficult to understand is mill levy versus real dollars. Until the commission adopts a fiscal mindset of real dollars needed to deliver the services to the citizens, or real dollars needed to deliver the services the citizens are willing to pay for, it seems like a shell game of mills / valuation will continue. What is the reasoning behind not using real dollars? Well, you know, we've always based everything on mills, and we know what one mill in this county will produce. Maybe that is something that isn't clear to county residents,
Right.
what a mill is and what it produces in dollars. My only thought is that, you know, when we publish budget, maybe there should be footnotes of what a mill actually produces. And I don't know if is that I've never noticed that in a budget publication. I mean, unless I'm missing something.
You mean like saying it's worth 140,000?
Right,
130,000?
right, you know,
Yeah.
a footnote, one
Okay.
mill equals,
In those deals that you see out there that's public, you don't see that what's a mill worth to each county. You have to go see what each year changes.
Right.
And what you have to go look. You just don't see that.
yeah, you know, and every county's different.
Yeah.
I'd love to have what a mill produces in Johnson County.
Yeah.
And so the mill changes with the value,
Yes.
assessed value.
Every year.
Yeah,
Yeah, so even though we kept the mill the same this year, a lot of people will still see property increases because of the assessed value.
right.
Because the mill levy because the assessed value actually increased our dollars. So it is kind of, it's a lot.
That's why I'm thinking every year when we publish a budget, we could disclose what a mill is going to produce. Yeah, as I said, it changes from year to year.
Right.
And the effect of that is, excuse me, go ahead.
How many people will actually look at that and understand? I don't know, but I guess it is more transparent.
Yeah.
I think some of that is mandated by the state based on your,
You're right.
you have 4 different funds towards the bottom of your budget column that always have to generate a 1.5 to a 1 mil, and it's dictated. So whether your mill is worth 30,000 or it's worth 140,000, it's dictated by the state that you have to give up a mill. So as your assessed value changes, you have to stick to that mill.
Anyway, I just, you know,
It's
You're with
No, I
us,
know.
Patty. You're with us that This
Yeah.
year, the mill, last year might have been 136,000.
This year's
year, mill,
140.
140. I don't know that exactly, but I'm just saying that's what it does.
Yeah, it
The
looks
mill
like
goes
about
up.
$300,000
Increase.
increase.
Yeah.
And like you still, like you said, put a footnote in there that says this is what it equals.
I don't know if there's anything against that. I wouldn't think disclosure-wise there would be. But, like I said, anything, I guess, that can be more transparent to the taxpayer, if they're paying any attention to it at all, other than what the tax bill is getting around. At least they would have a concept, okay, this is what this generates.
And I tried to do that too. Tina was helpful with last week.
Okay. Are we answering what you?
Mhm. Yeah.
The easiest way to explain to somebody what a mill is basically assess value, move the decimal point 3 places. It's 1/1000th of a dollar.
Right.
So you move the decimal point 3 places.
Now you've made it more complicated.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. It seemed easier to me.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Clear the button now.
Just do a footnote.
I'm sorry.
Moving on.
Try to be quiet.
Question number 3, when the county receives a signed pilot agreement, can that revenue be put directly in the general fund to be spent as the commissioners see fit, or is the pilot money given to specific departments or for equipment purchases? Well, that money does flow to the county general fund.
Okay.
All the above, because there are
Yeah,
separate ones and
yeah.
other entities, yes.
That's all discretionary money, but it does flow to the general fund.
But there's no law that says there has to be a pilot agreement either.
Well, when they have the separate pilot agreements to the schools, and that money goes directly to them.
Schools,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
between
Or
them.
the
and-
fire departments or wherever, it all depends how it's
But they're saying
negotiated, then
that-
it doesn't come into the general.
But they're saying that pilot agreements just don't stand up. I don't know why.
Because it's just the promise.
Yeah, that's
Good
the
faith.
best answer I can probably come up with, is just a promise. Promise I'll give you some, but if the bank ain't got it, we ain't gonna give it to you.
Okay, and then,
Simple.
as a comment, with respect to my question about more personnel in the last decade, and the subsequent answer by Randy, I guess you
Yeah.
answered that at one time. I decided to check the statistics and found out that Marion County did not go down on personnel, actually added some personnel during the recession. We did go through the recession, but I was thinking about that also. Of course, I wasn't here, but our economy in this county is largely defined by ag. Now, I do know that there was some businesses that probably did lay several people off. I mean, there were some people in the county that were hurting, there's no doubt about it. But if you look back to what commodity prices were during the recession, I was just checking on that last night, and during the recession, wheat prices averaged $7 to $10 per bushel, compared to $4 right now. Soybean prices averaged $12 to $15 a bushel. They're now $8. And so, I'm not saying that we were insulated from the recession, but revenue-wise, actually, some of our producers in Marion County actually did quite well during those years. Any other comments on that?
No.
Well, and also talked about the siloed staffing format rather than a shared workload, cross-training.
Right. Are you talking about cross departments?
However that would work. I mean, I don't know what departments could do what together. However, when you keep stacking people in the same departments
Yeah.
without having some kind of shared
But there has
workload,
been,
that keeps adding more
there
people.
has been some departments that have shared, correct, Ashley?
We have done.
You've shared with planning and zoning?
We share the
treasurers.
treasurer.
So there has been some of that. Of course, you can't send the county clerk out to patch holes,
Well, no.
There was even refusal when we wanted to keep a full-time job, to come and cross-train with another department. When we was seeing maybe one department was light, the other one could use somebody, there was some refusal to do that, and negative comments, and, you know, just, it didn't happen because they was being bullheaded and didn't want to do it. So we've tried that, and it's awful tough unless you get, and if they don't like what they're gonna do, they ain't gonna perform. And even down here with, I don't know if I'm getting ahead on question 4, no,
No,
that's
not
on
really.
Steve Hudson's. We've had good help sometimes, and as part-time, but then when we lay them off in the wintertime, they don't come back. And so there have been some decisions to keep them, instead of looking for new help and stuff, there's been some part-time turned to full-time because he was a good employee, so.
Yeah.
And even since I've been on the commission, finding part-time help has been near non-existent, especially when it comes to, you know, road and bridge. Over the years, you always had added a patching crew during the summer and those kind of things and you just can't get people to apply for those jobs. Now, sad commentary, but it's just
Well,
the way it is.
all of these are not to demean any department, the county employees, anything. It's more planting a seed to when, you know,
Yeah,
because
sure.
what I was saying in this is with the park and lake, when Steve was there, we had a part-time groundskeeper, that's all, and now we have 2 full-time. So we've added, and I'm not quite still sure how, I know you said part-time, but 2 full-time?
And so, but what was the staffing then in the summertime? When
It
you
was, you usually have one, you had 2 part-time come on instead of, that is the point, that we have 2 part-time come on in the summer, and now switch that to one of the full-timers, where we had
Okay.
1 full-time, and then 2 part-timers before to come, so, yeah,
So like a half a part-time or more?
do what.
So a half a part-time or more? Like you said,
We
2.
used to have, and we cut that out.
And as you know, we've been lobbied quite vigorously from County Lake residents to get more things done out
Right.
there, things that have maybe been overlooked or
Yeah.
just put to the back burner, so.
Yeah, the lake is a lot better shape the last 2 years than it was 10 years, 5, 10 years ago. Things have been repaired and fixed instead of let go.
If the public's okay with that, then.
Hmm? Well,
Okay,
I don't know, but
have we answered you, Patty?
Yeah, as best you can. I'll wait on that other one with Tina.
you got more government regulations too, like the courthouse. They got more reports they have to produce now because of the federal government. I mean, our business, they had to hire new people to distribute
Okay.
reports.
Thanks for your comments. We're way behind. We're gonna go ahead and move, was that it?
Yes.
Administrative, okay. We're gonna go ahead and move to our 9:15 agenda item, planning and zoning, environmental health, Sharon at US Cellular CUP. So if Sharon's available. Morning, Sharon. One.
I did, I put mine on.
Thank you.
So we have a request for a conditional use permit to establish a wireless communications tower. This is a request of US Cellular on behalf of Dwayne and Karen Unruh, and Cole Talbot agent is here as well. The property in question contains about 52 acres, so it's agricultural, and is adjacent to the southeast city limit boundary of the city of Gossel. Though extraterritorial jurisdiction has not been claimed by the city of Gossel, the application was provided to the city for review. We haven't really had any comment from the city. The purpose for the tower is to enhance the coverage for the US Cellular telephone users in the area. The site will be accessed via an existing field entrance onto Highway K-15. They're just south of Gossel. No structures are currently located on the parcel. The nearest residence is approximately 600 feet to the north of the proposed tower site. The proposed tower will be a 195 foot monopole secured to a concrete base. The tower and ancillary equipment will be contained within a 60 by 60 foot compound fenced area. The proposed location adequately meets the property line setback requirements. All architectural, mechanical, and electrical components in the facility will be installed to resist wind, ice, and snow forces per the national standards and building codes. In your packets, there was an aerial photo showing where the proposed location is at. You have the specs provided by the engineer. This is a monopole, so it's not attached by guide wires. It's attached to a concrete base, and it's basically freestanding.
Is that newer technology then?
Yes. And
Like
it's
I say,
also,
most of them we see still have guide wires on.
Yeah, and this is just a shorter pole that's similar to like a light pole. It's just a single base, straight up.
and they're also constructed to have the ability to co-locate and to hold other antennas should they be added.
Three additional carriers.
3 additional carriers.
So when you put up one of those, you have to lease to other carriers?
Not, you don't have to, but if another company were to reach out, then they do have an opportunity to go on the tower. So it's not set in stone that say AT&T or Verizon would go on that tower, but they do have the opportunity to, yes sir.
And how big an area will your tower enhance?
So on the coverage maps, there's some examples in there. I believe the first one is the existing coverage, and you can see there's a big gap around the Gossel area. And then if you keep going through, it shows the proposed gap fill and the main purpose for the project. Some of the red dots on the outside are existing towers. That's where the existing coverage is coming from. And this is kind of centrally located from each of those towers to offload each one of those towers, as well as provide 5G technologies, the newest and latest technologies to the
Yeah, I was
city
getting
of
ready to
Gossel.
ask you about 5G.
Yeah. And also in-building coverage is a big, this is another main focus of the project. So, some in the city of Gossel, there might be coverage now, you can get a call out. If you step inside or go through inside a metal building or whatever the situation might be, you probably lose your coverage right now, and that's why there's the gap there. With this new tower, it's lower to the ground, it's smaller, it's not a big guy tower for that reason, so it can penetrate through buildings, homes, and cars. That's the main focus of this project.
Your third page in, it shows a lower site. What's that?
So that's a different band of coverage there, the LAA coverage. That's
Okay.
a higher speed of coverage for mainly data, or
Okay.
data, yes.
Okay.
So how different will this be from the tower that we have up north, up on 330th? I know it's not your tower, but we have a tower up there on 330th
Okay.
right now. And it's dead for, as soon as, you can be talking and you go into a certain radius around it,
Mhm.
and you just lose everything. How different will yours be from that?
Okay, I haven't seen that tower to answer specifically to that tower, but for this proposed tower, with the height that it is and our proposed coverage, probably 2-mile radius, you can expect the highest technologies 5G coverage. Like I said, there already is in the area. You can probably go ahead, like with the existing towers around, you can get a call out. But if you want to do downloads or use your internet or LTE, whatever it might be, that's where there's really slow speeds and there's a huge hole. And that's what this tower is going to do, is provide those capabilities to the town and the surrounding areas of Gossel, as well as penetrate through cars and buildings, schools, and whatever the situation might
Is
be.
this your first tower in Marion County?
In Marion County, yes, sir.
Because I know the area of the county I live in, northwest Marion County, well, I hate to say it, but Verizon just quit working basically.
Okay.
And so a lot of people that I know went to US Cellular just because they were getting coverage.
Right.
So I was just wondering if you
Yeah.
had plans of any more?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there will be in the future, and that's kind of what you'll start seeing more of is smaller towers, focusing on penetrating certain areas or towns or highly populated areas. The way that the hole is detected that you see on your maps is US Cellular picks up on any drop call or any lost call or a call that if you try to make a call and it can't go out. If you're, whatever it is, they get that data back to their engineers, and so they're seeing a high number of calls that are getting dropped right there, or blocked, or lost service in that area, and that sends a message to their engineering.
Thank you.
So I just want to clarify because I'm a little confused.
Yep.
Okay, so you're saying that your tower that you're putting up will not cause the same problems that the tower that we have up north does. By when you get into a proximity of it, it's just dead. Now, when you get away from it, it's great.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
when you get really close to the tower, and I see you have a resident that lives 600 feet
Right.
from that tower. If that resident lived 600 feet close to the one up there, they wouldn't have service at all.
No, for this project, that's not going to be it at all. This project and this tower is specifically for the residents close by, and all the businesses there and everything else, all the residents. That's what this is for.
We're not talking about a big amount of coverage.
Right.
And
Or
So
area.
the closer you are to this one, the better it will work. Just to
Okay.
be straightforward.
Oh, okay. And if that doesn't happen, there would be restitution on that to correct that problem?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I do know what he was saying about the cellular, and that's true down there in Durham. Boy, that's a terrible place. You can't talk to anybody. It's just, I don't know what it
Okay.
is.
I'm not familiar with that.
But I do know, before I bought my new phone, he had just bought his, and he was recommending US Cellular because he had such great service, and I checked into it too. And interestingly enough, I did look at the map that they have right there in their office, and the Durham area is just wonderful coverage. But you get over to the Tampa area, and it stinks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess they're all kind of area related. Yeah.
I guess, looking at that, you still got a large area of Marion County that you potentially gonna have a drop in.
Right.
And so, I'm not against your CUP, I would like to see you do more business in Marion County.
Well, I'll make sure that I will do what we can do.
Yeah.
Sharon, you first said you're gonna use an existing field interest off of Highway 15?
Yes.
Okay. I sat and ate dinner Friday with some Gossel residents, and that was a request to make sure that there's an ample entrance off the highway to get to this, because there's been some, in that area, it's so flat over there that sometimes they don't put an entrance in, culvert and stuff, so.
This one is a well-established culvert. It's one of the wider ones. I don't know where our road guy is, but what are they, 15 or 20 feet?
The wide ones are 24.
So,
Okay.
so does KDOT have to approve that also?
No.
It's already there, apparently.
All right.
Is it already there?
Yeah, it's already there. They just have to establish a better base on it for traffic.
Okay.
Okay.
So may I ask one more question? It's interesting to me that you stated that this tower is going to enhance the cell phone service, so people, the closer you are to it, the better. Am I right? So if that is the case, then why do you not put the tower a little bit closer so that it can benefit more people?
Setbacks.
Setbacks mainly, just for
Our-
property line setbacks.
Our county regulations require that the tower be at least fall distance between the property line and the center of the tower.
And actually, I thought it was by Article 19, I thought it was actually almost 3 miles setback on that by Article 19, am I wrong? I was reading Article 19, and I thought that it said that you have to have all telecommunications, that you have to have at least 3 miles.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
right here, yeah.
That regulation is about an existing tower within 3 miles. So US Cellular does not have any other towers within 3 miles of this proposed site. That regulation is to control how many towers are within a certain range of each other.
What if it's a different company?
That's okay. It goes by the same carrier. So a US cellular tower would not be allowed to be established within, say, a half a mile of another US cellular tower.
But if it was a Verizon tower within a half a mile, Jim Dandy.
Then we don't have anything against that.
So you're saying no need commercial telecommunication towers?
Correct. They can co-locate. So you could have a Verizon antenna on a US cellular tower, just no new towers established.
So Verizon could come in within a half mile of him and put a tower, ask for a CUP like they have.
They could.
Yeah.
But he couldn't put another one
Right.
within
Right,
a
he
half
could.
mile.
If this
Right.
one was built.
Right.
Any other questions?
And I also want to add that the planning commission recommended approval of the CUP with conditions. If you look at the back of the staff report, those conditions are listed out. That if unused for a period of 12 months or more, the structure should be declared abandoned and the applicant should be required to remove the tower and appurtenances, and the affected ground should be restored to a use compatible with the surrounding use. Strict adherence to the development plan of record is required, and adherence to all applicable federal, state, and local regulations is required.
And falling distance is away from right of way and everything,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, it actually, it goes by the boundary line, which would be inside of your right of way.
Okay.
And they're actually 200 and some odd feet from the
61 or
property
I
line.
think it's 41 or 61.
61 here, 261. As the owner sitting back here, Dwayne, is there anything that you requested? Did you go to the planning and zoning meeting, request anything?
I did not request anything there. Just one concern that putting in the access drive, I haven't talked to Cole about it. We would request a culvert tube in there for natural water drainage.
In your drive on your property?
Yeah,
It's not on the state, not on the
no,
right of way?
the water does not. It goes in on our property is where the natural drainage is not affected by the state's access.
With that being said, then, is there a draw or something through there that has to, okay? With that being said, can we help the landowner request that? I mean, or if we give a request and I'm not accusing you of doing this, but I'm just saying, if they didn't want to put a culvert in, whose fault is that then? Is it ours, or is it for giving them the request, giving them the CUP to do it, and not putting that in there?
So we can require reasonable conditions on a CUP. So if you feel like that's a reasonable thing to suggest, then we can do that.
I mean, I'm hearing from landlord, I personally have not seen the site, Dwayne, I just have, I mean, I've been there, but I just didn't look right where it's gonna be. But if there's a draw going through there for drainage, then to me, that's a pretty big issue.
I don't know that US Cellular would be opposed to adding that.
Probably not.
So,
There would be no issue to install a culvert, wherever it need to be,
okay.
we would comply with it.
So if you want to make that a condition, then I think it would be reasonable.
Any other questions?
I don't know how to state that, but,
Provide for
landowner can-
appropriate drainage.
There you go.
Retain waterways.
Yeah. You have that CUP with you?
Yes.
Is that the resolution? I have one with the number on it.
That's one of the issues.
Oh, that's what you.
And It just contains those conditions that were just stated. If you wanted to add
Well,
something to it, we would
are
have
you
to
ready to make a
provide
motion then,
No,
based on your
revise it, she said.
recommendation?
I would just like to add that to it somehow. If this is a good one, I would definitely like to have them add that proper drainage is attained by cellular for the land. That's all I'd care to ask for, so.
Okay, this is resolution number 2019-12, a resolution approving a conditional use permit to establish a wireless communications tower on certain property generally located at 1181 Highway 15, Newton, Kansas. I would go ahead and make a motion then to approve that with the additional condition of, appropriate drainage, approved proper drainage.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
When they amend it, do we have to sign a new one when they add that condition to it? Or we have to sign another one? That'll have to be amended.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Okay, Road and Bridge, Bryce, Noble. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Line shows bars for the mile.
Morning. All right, first thing I have is a salary change for a new employee.
Okay, this is a salary change, Special Bridge, Gina Hardy, new equipment operator 1, 6 month and 1 year raise at $22.67.
Second thing was from last week on the water line permit. We found the actual permit along with the letter for the change in that. So if you want to look that over, and we talked about just amending that existing permit.
Didn't we approve that?
We approved it, but to say that we were just going to amend it to change the location on it. So yeah, it's been signed by the commission just to change the location of where they were.
Okay, so do we need to act on that for a change since we've already approved it, that it's a change in location?
You can.
Okay.
It's on here now.
The third page there talks about his changes. He just moved it farther down the road, so.
Okay, I will go ahead and then make a motion to approve permit number 2019-01 for a water line and amend to road crossing permit to cross 140th of Goldenrod near intersection, moving 596 feet east of Goldenrod on 140th. That was a request from Marion County Rural District, Water District number 4.
And you've seen this yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, I second it.
Okay, move the second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Went to culvert bids. We got 2 submittals from J&J as well as Wellborn Industries. Just got those in, so we're looking at them just to get some more culverts in. Crushed concrete, I followed up with Mitch Fritsch, Phillipsburg, Phillips County. He's used crushed concrete extensively. And he said he crushes his anywhere from 2-inch minus to the 1.25-inch minus to the 1-inch minus, and he says he's had fantastic results with it. Obviously, like anything else, make sure you get the steel out of it. But he said, obviously, if you drive up and down a rock road or dirt road, whatever else, there's still nails and stuff like that out there that you have to deal with that may or may not be from the concrete. But based on that, he said that he wouldn't have any problem using it. We talked about Harvey County, that he just had the bad pile of crushed concrete that had the steel and stuff in it. But obviously, he said if it wasn't for that, it would have been great. And I talked with Jeff Blosser of Morris County. He's the same way. He wouldn't have any problem using it either. So, I mean, I don't know what other information you would want. I still think it's definitely a beneficial thing to get, or tell them that we'll take it, then we can, process it, get rid of the steel and stuff later on.
They're done with their 3 miles now.
Yes. They've got 3 miles planned for next year and then 3 miles for the following year.
And so being that it's on their right of way, we can do it whenever.
Yes. They just, I mean, they're just looking for the fact is, if we're not gonna take it, they need to go to Plan B or C or D, whatever else, to try to get rid of it, because KDOT doesn't want it either. I mean, so, because they've got piles of stuff all over the place too, so.
They was up there and crushed the other existing piles for the landowner that
Yes,
does it.
yes. And that's the 2-inch minus stuff that I have in the bucket downstairs that you can look at. So, I mean, for base rock, I mean, obviously it's too big for surface rock, but for base rock or filling in things, I mean, I think that'd be a fantastic base. So, but like I said, I'm, with all 3 of those project plus the stuff down here, I'm looking at 45,000 yards of stuff to send through there, which is it's quite the substantial amount.
What is the cost on it?
Well, that will be, the fact is there's no cost for it right now, it's just sitting there. So all we'd have to do is crush and or process it. They originally quoted me $7.50 a ton, and that was to crush it, remove the steel and stockpile it there. But all things considered, if we have time this winter, whatever else, we can actually go out to solicit bids on what somebody would come in and do it for us. So that's, like I said, that was just one guy that he was really pushing while he was in here to get it done. So, but with that amount of material in here, I'm sure we could get a better rate than that. So I mean, it's still, even at $7.50 a ton, it's still cheaper than what we're gonna buy that rock at, like anywhere from $8.50 to $9 an hour, or $9 a ton from the quarries. And I think it's actually better material.
Do you think it's equal to KDOT spec type rock?
Better.
Per ton, you say that, but let's say 15 ton on one of our regular dump trucks, and there's $1.50 difference. So, but to haul it clear across the county, then I guess.
The haul basically is gonna be the same
Ain't
regardless.
better. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter whether it comes out of one of the quarries or if it, you know, a haul, I mean, it's tough to figure out hauling anywhere because you gotta figure out where you're hauling it.
Yeah, right.
You know, I did see a belly dump that was sitting in the county that I know the individual that has it. I was gonna see if he wouldn't let us use it for a while, try that out for a while, see if that's the way to go too. So, but I just think it's, you know, it's material that we can't pass up, that we could definitely make use of and, you know, have a good supply for a while and be there, so.
How many ton do you think's up there right now?
Well, I think he said he quoted, he crushed, I can't remember how many, couple thousand ton over there for a private individual, and that's all he wanted. And you can see that's like 4 good piles, and they basically cleaned up that entire area where it was sitting pretty well. So, but I don't know what he wanted for it, but I mean, that's why they originally started piling up there. But you can see the size of pile up there. It's gonna take a pretty good sized area, and obviously, that's the other thing. If you process it and crush it and put it up into good piles, it's going to take up less area because right now they're just kind of stringing it along, dumping it out of a dump truck, and that's about it. So
how many ton was that?
Well, I don't remember for sure what he said was a couple thousand tons, but I can follow up for sure.
Didn't the first landowner say something about 40,000 tons or something?
Well, I
Something like that, yeah.
I think originally he was going to take it all, and then he realized just how much it was going to be, and that's a lot of material. So, but I can find out, you know, what he's, you know, so. But this guy, he's really wanted to crush it, and I said, you know, I'm in no hurry for it right now.
Let me ask you this, is just the way it is, and we've had a lot of washouts, is it good for that right now the way it is, without crushing it?
Fantastic, except for the steel. The only thing we'd have to do is take a torch or a saw or whatever else. And honestly, there's really not that much steel in there except for some bigger chunks that have the dowel bars in them. But yeah, that stuff's fantastic because it's bigger than what we would, you know, like a small 3 or 6 inch. There's places you can do that, and that's the whole thing by processing and stuff. You get rid of the pieces that have the exposed steel inch. You can set them off the side or whatever else, or smaller stuff anywhere from, you know, regular road gravel size up to 6/12 inch. Yeah, that's great disc lining material or washout material, whatever the case may be. So, and again, that brings up the issue. Typically the bigger size of material you get from the quarries, it costs you more money. You know, it depends on if it's been crushed or not, but this has already been crushed, so the material's sitting there.
If you was to come in with this crusher, and he sets his crusher at a 4 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, I don't know what size, is that the same price as crushing it to a 2 inch?
What he told me was that the price he gave me was crushing to 2 inch, but it's not going to vary anymore. The whole process just comes to crushing, is the initial crushing, and then it goes up and over a screen. You can put whatever screen you want into there. Now, some of them actually have a grade on the front that says, or that you've set like a 6 inch opening. Anything that doesn't go through there just comes down. Well, that's your bigger material. Anything that goes in there is crushed down to, you know, 2 inch, inch and a quarter. You crush it to whatever you want. You can actually process it multiple times and recrush it or whatever you want to do. So pretty much whatever you want to work with. And like I said, that Phillips County, he said he uses it for his surface rock, inch and a quarter, and that down to an inch. And he said, as far as he knows, he hasn't had a windshield problem since he's been putting it down. You know, for chipped windshields, whatever else. So.
Well, based on your recommendation, I'd be in favor of going ahead with it.
I could see a lot of it, you know, see a bunch of it used. It's free for fill. I mean, if it's you know, you don't have no crushing.
Like I said, I mean, other than the cost to go in and crush it, which we basically pay for it crushing out of the quarry, that's one thing we're dealing with, and it's set up to where we've got multiple different options to use it for. I mean, the only thing you're really concerned about is with the steel sticking out, is it's a safety issue if somebody has to walk down there. But as far as filling in whatever else, and if it's a big deal, you just go down with a torch or cut off saw and cut it off, and because that's what KDOT does. That they have old bridges and stuff like that, they knock down. So yeah, you can use it for riprap, you just can't have any exposed steel. So, like I said, that's the other thing. It's the green thing to do, to reuse this stuff, as compared to keep getting virgin material out of the quarries all the time too. So, and like I said, I think it'll work out fantastic all the way around. So.
Yes, if we had someone used it, the next year we'd know whether to take another batch.
Well,
because it's an ongoing operation.
Yeah.
77 is.
Yeah. And I mean, that's to say that they've got 3 miles this next year, 3 miles the following year, falls up budgets and everything else. But I'm sure they've got to do something, because obviously the road's not holding up very well. So.
Okay, any other comments?
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and I just have yours if you guys.
Yes, and I'd spoken to Bryce earlier. When we hired Bryce, we gave him 60 days to get his engineering certificate. That's been submitted and kind of out of his hands at this time, and the 60 days has elapsed. And so I'd like to make a motion to extend that for another 60 days, and hopefully it'll, I mean, I don't know how you can expedite it.
You can.
I
It's
second
gonna
that.
take 60 days for them to finish reviewing it.
I don't know.
Is that reasonable to assume though?
Somewhere between now and 60 days, I would say yes.
We all know how the
Yeah.
wheels of government turn.
So,
I'd second.
So it's been moved and seconded to extend that deadline for 60 days. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I guess, do you want me to go ahead and tell KDOT we'll take the crushed concrete then, or is there any other dissension, or?
That's your recommendation, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I think it's the way to go.
Buck stops with you.
That sounds good to me. The only thing, we talked about last week was, I guess, maybe a little bit more confirmation with the position description we were talking about last week. Is that something that you guys want to work with? You want me to come back, redo us together? And what to call that position, I guess that was the other thing, so.
Well, I think we got his recommendation on that, so now it's
Okay.
up to us to complete it, I would
Okay.
say. I mean, we've
Okay.
spent weeks on it
Yeah,
already, so.
yeah. Okay, and I just want to follow up with that, so.
I think we were all pretty much in agreement with how that was put together.
Okay. Sounds
Well,
good.
we didn't finalize it yet.
We haven't finalized it.
Right, okay, and that's why I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure there wasn't anything else. Okay. Other than dealing with more flood work last week, so.
You know,
Bryce, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have some pictures here that I took, which it just came to my attention, and I didn't know this was happening, but this is on 290th.
Okay,
And it's like all over 290th, and I don't know what's happening to it, but I mean, it's getting really bad on 290th.
Fishers, yeah.
Yeah.
the flood did a lot of that because 290th was.
yeah.
Well, it's actually, it's actually been there for a while, it's just getting worse and worse.
So is that just on the 290th east?
It's on the north side.
But I mean, is that on the 290th, the Lincolnville Road?
Yes.
Yes,
what you're
yes,
referring to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, those pictures right there, yes, they're from Limestone going east, and it goes almost the whole area, a different area,
I-
yes. But it seems to me like if we don't, I think that's the door
Oh, okay, okay.
of the, exact,
That looks like a
window.
finger, maybe.
It does look like, and there might be that too.
I can tell you where it's coming from. Number one, these are typically slides. The pavement is sliding on top of there. It has probably come down from the fact is that originally when that cracked, water's gotten in there, it's broke the bond. And that road is at the age that it's been, it's 10, 12 years since that was
An overlay?
That's typically when stuff like that can happen. The other thing that is exacerbated the problem is the moisture. Anytime you get moisture underneath there, and that can cause a problem. We could go in, we could mill it out, we could blade it out, hopefully the base down below there is still good shape. But
Well, you can't really see it, but in that picture, but when you get out to the road, you can see that side is dropping.
sure, and
So
again,
what
it's,
you're saying kind of makes sense.
yeah, it's that, and then the water down below. A lot of times you'll see this where there is basically no ditch or water standing there, because what happens is that water works this way just by the sheer repetition of people driving across it. Works underneath there, it causes the base to give out or fail. But, I mean, they can be fixed, it's just a matter of getting out there to fix them, and
And with those size cracks and openings, is it not something like, the more water that gets in there, the worse it's gonna accelerate, am I
Sure.
correct?
Sure. Well, like I said, it's just a matter of going in there and, we can, like I said, if the pavement down below is in good shape, we can take that out and put some good cold mix back over the top of it, should be all right. But, that's what happens when you have as much moisture as you have on these roads, and the water gets down inside of there and causes problems, so. Obviously the one, especially like this one here that's broke out, you really have to be careful with motorcycles on that. If they hit those, that can cause big problems. So we've got guys patching out around Tampa right now, so we'll make sure to get those covered up. So, yep. And I appreciate you bringing them up too, because like I said, we don't make them cross that road all the time either, but that whole area up there, I mean, I feel
And 290th west where the water was over the road for half a mile.
Yeah, we've got spots,
Those-
yep.
They all sloughed off.
Yeah, yep. And it's the same thing, you just can't put that, I mean, and it'd be different if you had 6, 8, 10 inches of asphalt on it. You don't see the problems there as much on 190th or going south out of Hillsborough or near either one, but
Just the south end of Indigo is getting
oh, yeah.
a mess.
Yeah, it's just, and it's you mean Nighthawk or Indigo?
Indigo, 13-mile road, south out of Hillsborough.
Okay.
That last mile.
Oh,
before you
okay,
get to
sure,
Harper
sure,
County.
yep, right down to the bottom, yeah, I remember that now. But yeah, it's, like I said, it's.
Yeah, we had trouble with that from the time we redid that.
And that probably tells me that there's springs down there.
There is.
They were coming down the hill, and notoriously, when you find them, you'll see not so much on the bottom of the hill, unless there's water collecting, but halfway down the hill, typically when you get out of a cut section into a fill, that's where you'll have those issues, because that's where the water sits. It comes out of the rock that's underneath there, and it sits right there in that dirt, so. But Other than that, I think that's all I had, so.
Okay, thank you, Bryce.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for getting somebody out there and putting some rock in that hole. You talking about motorcycles.
Oh, south of there, yep.
We had a guy report on a Saturday, or, well, I don't know what, he was in flood.
No, it was
area.
Friday, the
Okay, you-
week and a half ago.
He was in flood area
Yep.
working.
Yep.
But had a guy report that he was behind the motorcycle on that old mill south of Peabody. And it's where we put a culvert in, and it had settled, the rock had settled about 3 to 4 inches. And he hit that and did everything but lose it. I mean, the guy saw him, so he called me, and then I called Bryce, and wanted to thank you for getting that in there. My question to you, Bryce, is we know that's a problem, being a full cutout across the road. Are we gonna get that patched yet this year?
We're heading down that way.
All right.
They're working on Sunflower and Albany. We were gonna head down there and get that stuff, because all that stuff was scheduled to be chip sealed this year. And honestly, it's something to look at, and I guess it's been done for a while. It was even done before I got here, is that it should be covered up with something else by now. I mean, granted, you put the rock on there because you want it to settle down and everything else. But yeah, we need to go down there and do that, and it's just like all the other stuff. I know there's areas down there that are bad, and like I said, we're trying to patch on Tampa and everything else too. It's just, this year. It's
Yes.
just-
It ain't no fun this year.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you, Bryce.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, moving along quickly since we are behind. South Central Kansas Economic Development District, SCED, Steve Wilkinson, the Executive Director. I know Steve quite well.
Well, I couldn't touch where you was at, where you been. Yeah.
Well, last time.
Right over here, Steve.
Oh, well, we're okay. Well, there's 3 of us, or 2 of us, so I'll stand up and I'll let Bill have the seat, because I'm just gonna introduce Bill. And you might know Bill.
I see you
Randy,
guys.
you know me as Executive Director of SCED, and we're gonna talk about the Weatherization Assistance Program that now we're able to serve your county, so we're quite excited about that. Bill's the expert on the program, so I'm gonna let him share, and I'll just kind of stand to the side.
Sounds good, sounds good. So, as you guys may have heard recently, SCED obtained a service area with Marion County. We have seen that Marion County has been very underserved over the last 15 to 20 years with the weatherization program. Our agency has been providing these services for well over 20 years. We wanted to come today and tell you a little bit about what those services are for your clientele, because obviously the best way to get that information out is through our city clerks and county commissioners and those kind of folks. So the weatherization program is really designed to lower utility usage for low-income families, moderate-income families, and we serve a lot of senior residents. We serve a lot of single-family incomes. The services really that we do, just so you kind of know what the face of it looks like, there's a lot of assistance with like furnace replacements and repairs. We do some water heaters, so a lot of mechanical things we do, a lot of insulation work, so attics, walls, crawl spaces, those kind of things. We do some infiltration work, which basically means we're trying to reduce draftiness in the house and those kind of things. Last year, we saw an average reduction of almost 30% in our state for these services. So obviously with utility rates continuing to climb, seeing those reductions in usage are really big for the clientele. There's a lot of automatic qualifiers, but the process typically involves them contacting our office. We have a number of staff there that help them through the application and getting all the necessary pieces into us. At that point, we send out an inspector that does some diagnostic stuff. They check all the equipment. They really do a comprehensive inspection of the house. Usually takes between 2 and 3 hours for them to do that. At that point, we send out a licensed HVAC master tech to evaluate all the equipment, make sure everything's safe, operating as it should. And then we start sending the people out to do the work. So we'll send out furnace guys and insulation guys and those kind of pieces to get all the work completed. Once it has been completed, we send another inspector out to just kind of check the work and those kind of items. And then we obviously have a lot of reporting to the state. Now, the way that this is typically done is by county. Whatever your population is kind of determines what our need or what your need is for service. But because Marion County has been really underserved for so many years, we're really trying to make big efforts to really overproduce and extend what that minimum service requirement is in your area. So we really want you guys to reach out and let people know that we're in the area. We're providing these kind of services. Right now, the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation has leverage to get some additional funds that tie with this and allow us to do roof repairs, some replacement, depending on the size of the house, help us address some handicap accessibility issues if people have those kind of needs, some electrical and plumbing repairs. So foundation, probably not. Those kind of get a little bit more extensive than what's available, but this is a large grant. We serve roughly 450 people in our service area annually. We typically spend between $6,000 and $7,000 on average, so a lot of money really invested into these homes. It's typically 60 to 120 days before service from the time they apply. Some of the things that can speed that up is really the application process. So sometimes they have to get award letters for certain benefits that they receive and those kind of things, but our staff is highly skilled in getting them to the right people and getting that information back quickly. So we really want you guys to let people know we're in your area. Obviously, providing that service out of Wichita is much closer than out of Ottawa where it was being provided earlier. So Steve and myself will be going around to different communities in Marion County, just letting them know, giving them applications, letting them know what the resource is and how to help. But today we're here really to answer any questions you may have about the process, or if you have any. But we're excited to provide service out here in Marion County. We've been working effortlessly for probably 15 years since I've been here to try to be able to provide service in this county. So we're very pleased to be able to do that now and look forward to providing this service as well.
Is this landowners only?
No.
If somebody's renting the house, they may be able to be fixed too?
Sure, rentals, owner occupied, obviously, multifamily. So if you have public housing authorities or really any kind of low-income housing properties out there, have them get a hold of us. We'll go out and do kind of a free look before they start doing applications and say, hey, this is probably what we'd be able to do here. That way they know if it's, you know, kind of worth their time and efforts. But and that's really on the multifamily side, but we do modular homes, really anything but a camper. We can go out and provide service on.
How do you look at housing programs, low-income housing programs? Because some of them have a I don't know how, let's call it a nest egg. And how do you look at that when you see that, if you find a home that's under their control, that they still have quite a bit of money?
So really it's all about their annual income, and it really, if they receive TAFT or some other items, it doesn't matter what they have in savings or what their retirement or any of those kind of things look at. There are certain disqualifiers, so it's really based on their annual income, and then if they have any of those automatic qualifications. And like I said, there's TAFT and a few other things that just put them into that category. So we really don't look at that at all. We don't look at that at all. One of the things we had spoken with some of the folks on our board about is also utilizing these funds. There are other housing grant opportunities down the road for you, and these funds, even though they're federal, they don't count as, they're allowed to be counted as match for other grants. So if you want to do, you know, a CDBG housing rehabilitation grant or one of those kind of things in the future, those can actually, these weatherization funds can be counted basically as your city match for those kind of programs. So there's tons of benefits for the weatherization program from a community resource as well. But we work a lot with code enforcement or different city officials who are driving around just seeing issues. But honestly, most of our phone calls in our smaller communities come from our single income and our senior residents. People know they have a furnace that's not working or one of those kind of things, because it's 100% paid for. So there's nothing out of pocket, anything like that. There is a condition of lien, which basically means if you're a rental property, you can't do these with an intent to sell. So it's not to be utilized as you know, an investment for you for your properties. But as long as the people qualify who stay there by income, the homeowner doesn't have any real responsibility other than sign and acknowledge to let us go in and do the work there. So really that service looks the same whether it's a rental or not.
I think we're very pleased that SCED has brought Marion County back under.
Sure.
I mean, I can remember a number of years ago when we were utilizing the weatherization quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so just getting that word out there that that's available again, there's certainly the need, so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you said you're gonna be going around different places and talking and stuff, we also came to the commission. So will we have access to some of the applications or your cards or something like that? Because I know personally, I will be going to several areas this week that would definitely probably be interested.
So what we'll probably do is, we have 2 office locations. We have one in Bel Air, right outside of Wichita, and then we have one in Hutchinson. Julie Westfall, who was unable to make it this morning, is our office manager of our Hutchinson location. She's probably going to come by tomorrow and drop off applications and a few business cards and different things. Our website is just www.sced.org. If you go onto there, applications are always available online for you to print out. There's obviously a lot of other information that is provided there if people want to see that. We can drop off some pamphlets for you guys that people just want to read about it. Normally it's the homeowners in rental situations that like the pamphlets. Owner occupied who are seeking service or usually have less questions, they just need some help quickly. So we'll make sure tomorrow we get somebody by, and Diane, I can make sure let them know to let you know that they've been here, drop those things off, so you can take whatever you'd like to from that. Yeah.
It's a great program. It really is. I've seen it make a big difference in some people's lives.
It is, and because we're the largest agency in Kansas, there's some benefits of being a big agency providing these services, and we have the luxury of having a large volume of staff, so we can really get to places pretty quickly, and our service actually goes a little further by the dollar just because we have leverage of purchasing power, and obviously when you send a lot of work to contractors, our pricing gets more competitive and those kind of things. So by having us provide those services really expand for the people in the community, so it ought to be a really good thing for them.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free. All of our contacts on our website as well. Just reach out to us via phone or email, and we'll get back to you quickly.
It's been a pleasure serving on your board.
Thank you.
And
Did you tell?
we acknowledge your vice chairman.
Oh, I was just gonna say, did you say that?
You had to do that, didn't you?
Thank you for letting us come speak to you guys today.
Did you have a question?
Yeah,
question.
I know several people that would be.
Excuse me, Bill.
Yes.
Do you guys provide the workers, the crews to come out and do this?
Everything, yep.
Okay.
So once they fill out the application, we kind of take it from there, and we just tell them, we'll contact them, set up times for inspection, times for the work. There's really nothing they're required to do other than let us in the door and do the work, and we handle everything from there.
Anything else? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good day.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Okay, Deidre here, Health Department.
Is Randy the vice service?
He made the mistake of not attending a meeting, but I was at. Okay, Deidre, go ahead.
Okay, first, I just wanted to ask whether the county's gonna pay for flu shots. I would like to maybe propose that we bill the Blue Cross Blue Shield, because a lot of our employees have that. It's gonna take a little more on our part, to do the billing process, but maybe offer it to the families, and then if they have Blue Cross Blue Shield, bill it, and then what Blue Cross doesn't bill or pay, then the county would pick up, because that would give the family, I don't know if all the county employees have family insurance, but that would help out those who, you know, we wouldn't be paying for the employees who have Blue Cross Blue Shield, but like the part-time employees who don't have insurance, that would help them out, it would help out families. So if you guys could kind of think about that, what way I can, when Tina's back and Jess is back, then we can get some figures how much actually you guys did pay
I think it's a good idea.
last year. But that's just.
Last year we just paid for the employee.
Right, a couple years ago, we always paid for the families, and I know that did help out a lot of families who don't, you know, we do have VFC for, families who, or for children under 19 who don't have health insurance. But you know, a lot of these college kids, they don't have health insurance, and 19, if you're over 19, it doesn't pay. But, and we might get a cash of, a small cash of like 317 vaccine that we can use on older, you know, over 19, but that's not a guarantee. But
Do you have to go up to 24 now since that changed a few years ago? Instead of 19, 18 or 19, you go up to 24 now?
no, the medical, like vaccine for children is through 18. So once they turn 19, then
So I would question what Blue Cross would actually pay.
they
But
usually
They do have
pay.
that, they have that, what is that, deductible,
Uh-huh.
and then copay, and then the doctor, all that. And I would-
Most of
It
the
would be interesting
time,
to call them first and just see.
most of the time they'll pay for immunizations, straight out.
That's what I was thinking.
For like the flu shots, the insurance that the county has. Now, I don't know, there are other Blue Cross Blue Shield policies out there that you have to meet the deductible first. So I can
You
check.
can call them and find out though exactly what they would pay, right?
Yep.
I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Because I don't have much faith in Blue Cross Blue Shield
then-
in anything.
And that's fine, but that's just something I wanted to bring up and then maybe send up with Tina at some point after we get all the information and see. But I just thought maybe by billing Blue Cross Blue Shield, that would cut down the county's cost, but then it would help people who don't take family insurance or can't afford to take that, and then it would help their families get immunized for flu shot.
Prudent.
So, okay, then I would like to go in executive session with, and Ashley can stay in for, okay, with the commission for personnel, personnel performance.
So just the commission, is that what you're saying?
Well, I
Or
was
Brad?
gonna have Tina, but Tina's not here, so Brad can stay. I mean, it doesn't, I
You
have,
you want to go in for personnel matters of non-elected personnel in order to discuss.
employee performance
Okay.
and personnel performance for probably 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'll move we recess an executive session in order to discuss pursuant to KSA 75-4319D for number one, for personnel matters of non-elected personnel in order to discuss employee performance with the commission until 11 o'clock. We'll return back to open session. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it is for non-elected persons, so bring it out.
We can do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all right.
And you know what? I get a lot more.
That it? Okay, then, out of executive session, I'll go ahead and make a motion to give our director discretionary authority to, for salary changes for Jessica Gilbert, Aaron Hine, and Sherry Moody, as discussed.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You guys get opposed yet, you guys.
Opposed?
Oh, opposed? Pass 3-1. Okay, thank you,
And then
David.
I'll have Tina bring those sheets.
Okay. EMS, Travis, oh, you're here, Travis.
Good morning, Travis. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. I got on the agenda for an executive session, but I don't believe Brad doesn't believe we need an executive session. I'm gonna come before the commission. I have an employee who recently received his annual allotment of vacation and put him over the max that he can carry. And I'm a little bit to blame for that. We've been running short and the guys have been working extra and not taking vacation. So I was gonna come before the commission and ask that he be able to carry that for probably 2 months. And then we can get that worked out if that's agreeable to the commission.
Okay, well, I know there's been precedent in the past where we have done that just because of the need for personnel.
Right.
Any discussion on that?
If you've got just reasons why, try getting it taken care of as quick as possible. How many
Yeah.
hours we talking about?
I believe he is, will have 40 hours that he needs to use, and I think by the end of September, we should be there to get them used up.
Brings up another point. If we've got everybody's got a different date. And that just blows my mind because I'm not used to working under that,
But he's one that would keep a count of that date, right?
well, I'm just talking, not just him, I'm talking about general personnel everybody has a hire date.
Yes.
And that becomes so then we run across this. I've never worked in a place like that. I've always worked in places that it was first, January to December 31st, and you get it taken, or you have a special reason why at that time, whether a director comes in and asks for it at that time. I mean, still, but it's all comes together at the end of the year. Everybody knows that they have to, and then all of a sudden, this situation, and we've had so many situations over the years where, I needed personnel, and I'm not saying that's bad, I'm just saying that it just seems like that if it all comes together at the end of the year, well, everybody knows that you use it or lose it by then.
So how hard would it be, Brad, to just make that simple policy change?
No, we
To
can
go
do
from the
that.
first to first? I mean, how hard would that be?
Yeah, it's not.
That would certainly-
It's harder on the department heads than it is us.
Certainly clarify things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Department
I mean, I
heads.
would have no problem doing that. Yeah.
Have a comment on that?
Okay, go ahead.
We do that, but come December, everybody wants off because nobody's taking
Yeah,
a
that's the
vacation
problem.
all year.
Yeah.
You're better off staggering all year long.
Yeah.
Me personally, because we have a hell of a time keeping people working December because they got vacation they gotta burn.
Yeah, it's a deal no matter which way you go.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be problems going that
because you
direction.
stagger them during the year,
But as a director, do you see that as an ongoing concern?
Well, a lot of my challenges with staffing that full staff and minimum staff are the same numbers. When somebody takes vacation, it costs me overtime. So if there were a way for them not to take vacation, and when I'm short already and spending out of the overtime budget, I don't like that, obviously.
So
It's a
how far in
challenge.
advance do you make up your schedule?
It's scheduled set for 5 years. They're on a shift, they're assigned to that.
Okay, so
So you
having
can't-
said that, you can pretty much so recognize that, we're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas, and
Right.
you
We
can
do
put
it
out in
on
July
point,
that we need X amount, so people know not to come
That
and
way
want
if they
to
do
take
run
a week off.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
So you can
running over-
control that.
I can't.
You're alarmed that they're out.
I don't disagree with what Randy's saying. I haven't seen that side of it too, but yeah, there is that if you carry it.
Both sides, yeah.
Yeah, there's two sides to the story.
Terminate anybody or something. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that one way would be better for me than the
Yeah,
other.
so by changing policy, we may still be.
Yeah, I can't say pragmatically. The question is, can you do it? Yes, and I've done it, and converted it to exactly what Randy's talking about, in a number of settings, just because it was simpler for them to have this calendar year that they can work off of. And then the department heads adjust also and will give certain types of directives in terms of, unless you've asked 6 months in advance, we don't, during the holiday season or during this period of time within the year, we're less inclined. I mean, we reserve the right to tell you that that's just not an option. Then he may be coming in here again saying, I've got someone who wasn't able to do it, I wouldn't let them do it during the holidays. They have the ability to carry it over, and you have the ability to grant that, so.
You would run into that problem no matter what.
Yes,
Even if I started
it
working
doesn't
from
matter,
July
yeah.
to July. and you
So
still
are we
have a
fixing
different
anything
problem.
by making another policy?
Not necessarily, but other than the simplicity of it.
Something else out there for you, the way we do it is every week, so that way they start generating vacation right away when they start working, rather than waiting to their year mark or whatever. We do it's 1.54 hours per week, I think. So then when somebody hits their limit, your trigger is an hour and a half. You know, that they're not 40 hours that we gotta eat up. It's your alarm a little quicker.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, with that being said, too, is just because you hit your entry date, you shouldn't get 4 weeks. And when you go to that system, because that's the system I'm on right now, is you earn it all year long. So that if you retire in February of the year you're going to retire, you don't get 4 weeks vacation. You get what you've earned for that year, even though you're entitled to 4 weeks or so. So, and it's a good system, but it's a lot of bookkeeping. I mean, it is. I mean, it's simple.
It's a calculation in payroll usually.
Yeah.
It does itself.
It does itself. But come January 1st, if you have 4 weeks, you don't get 4 weeks if you quit in January, quit in February. You don't get that 4 weeks. You get what you've earned that year, instead of, even though you're entitled for 4
Can
weeks.
accrue it.
Accrue it, yeah, up to 4
So
weeks.
how much do we allow to carry over? Because that should be limited too. You get yourself in.
There is a limit.
160 hours
4 weeks.
is max.
A month.
Well, and with that, you have to understand when somebody takes vacation in the EMS department, they use 24 hours to take 1 day. So if we start them out at 40 hours of vacation, they don't get 2 days a year off. And I think around 2021, we'll be having that discussion. I mean, to make that more equal. And I've explained that to my employees that I think that needs addressed. I don't believe I can address that now with the staffing minimum and maximum being the same without an increase to the taxpayer. So they're working with me. They're doing shift trades that aren't costing anything to get a little time off when they need it. But to make that fair and equal across the board, we should look at that one if we can get staff up as I proposed for 2021. So.
Do you have any options to like call in?
what's
Is there
the-
like any programs that you can call in
What's
to
the
reserve that?
commission's thought about changing policy or not?
Well, I'm just saying it needs to be asked and see what all it affects and things. But just one of them deals, if we're talking policy, sometimes we need to look at it and see.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, I like consistency and everything.
Just straight across the board, everybody knows that by the end of the year, you gotta have it. And you ask your supervisor, if you want Christmas off, you better have that in there January 1st. I mean, you do, you know, because my supervisor's only let so many people off. He's still gonna have service techs, he's gonna have crew, because he's still gotta do the job, same as you gotta do.
And it might be beneficial from the employee's standpoint, knowing I've got to look out quite a ways and say, I want this off, rather than all of a sudden a week. Now somebody says, well, I need the next week off.
Well, my previous employer, we got, as a new hire, they would get 12 hours a month is what they would accrue. After they'd been there 5 years, they got 15 hours a month. But we would sit down at the beginning of the year with a calendar. You knew what days you were working. It's set, infinite. It goes on forever. But we would sit down and you go around signing up on the calendar. So absolutely, you would sign up for Christmas in January. The previous year went by
From that point of
seniority.
view, I think it's be beneficial to do that. Is that something that could be put into policy that we could look at? Brad? Okay. What else you have for me?
That's it. If you're willing to give me through the end of September with that particular employer, I'll work with Ashley and we'll make sure
We've set precedents, so
Okay.
we need to stick with that.
And then the only other thing is if Brad had a little time, I'd like to visit with him after the meeting. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Okay, that was our final agenda item. Public comment, public concern. Floor is open. Anyone? Dave?
I'm just curious how much money we've spent on our lawsuits. Two of them the county has going on now.
Well,
Anybody know?
that will be reflected next year in our insurance premium.
Or is it
You're
insurance?
talking about the wind litigation?
Yes. Okay.
Now, it'd be an item for discussion at that point.
Yeah, I don't know that we have an exact number. Part of it is reimbursable.
Okay.
And then we have the insurance coverage and then the deductibles. So it's in process at the moment. I couldn't even tell you what the exact figure is.
Next year, you know.
Yeah, well, and we'll, as we go, you know, you pass a
Okay.
month or two as things go along, we'll have a better sense, I think, too. I do, I think, need an executive session for attorney-client privilege.
Okay, was there any other citizen concern? Last chance. Okay. Brad, what do you have?
Attorney-client privilege contract negotiations, this just came up over the weekend, and I contacted Tina, didn't realize she was in Hayes, so. I think 15 minutes, I need some input.
Okay, I'll move the recession to executive session in order to discuss consultation with our attorney-client privilege, in order to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 75-431-9B with the commission and Brad until 11:30, and then we will resume open session. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. I will move we recess into executive session in order to discuss consultation with our attorney-client privilege in order to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 475-431-9B with the commission and Brad until
About 10.
let's just say 11:40.
Okay.
We will resume.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 10 minutes. Yes, sir. Not unless it's coming in. Stand here.
Somebody can come in.
I figured you're just gonna adjourn anyway.
That it? Okay, out of executive session, no action taken. So that is our final agenda item. I'll move, we had
Do you want to
something.
sign this?
Okay.
We
yeah.
added the proper drainage shall be established by US Cellular.
Right. Okay, we approved that.
Did we come up with a resolution number for that by any chance?
Yes.
2019-12.
Yeah, that's in the motion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just noticed it's not up there.
You'll need to put that up.
Yes,
there.
I will.
Determined by US Cellular? Or is it?
Paid for by them. Does it say determined by them?
It's at the bottom.
That could be a huge
Um,
mistake.
Established. It's almost the same thing.
Thought. Just the thought.
That's what Sharon put, so I don't, do we want to change?
Proper drainage shall be established.
What was your
What would be your best word?
wording on
Proper
it?
drainage is what I said.
Paid for, provided by.
So what does it
That would
say?
be,
But it's provided by US Cellular.
yeah, provided by,
So,
that's,
so it's on them.
well, it doesn't say that it's provided, it says it's established, so they shall establish, so they're gonna tell us what proper drainage is.
Subject to the approval of the county. That's what I always put.
So then we
If
need
that's in
another
fact what you
revision.
meant.
Okay, then we'll have to change that.
Change it again.
Okay, so what should we put?
Thank
What do
you.
you want her to
Sorry.
put?
See, that's
Subject
why,
to the
that's
approval.
why you
It's
made
good
it,
you
that's
brought
why
it
you
up.
made it.
As established by US Cellular and approved by.
Subject to the approval
Subject to the approval
of
of
county staff. It's gonna be Bryce or somebody.
So you wanna make that change quick or just bring it back next week?
We'll bring it back Monday.
Okay.
This is raising my flag.
Pretty important. Pretty important.
Just make sure they pay for it.
Yeah.
In simple words.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a motion to adjourn.
I would make that motion. Oh, you done made it?
I made it.
Okay, second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.